Here is the box that the Exceed Blueray 450 PE Receiver Ready Edition comes in. Opening up the box, you see the Healy inside, Receiver Ready Edition, things like the canopy, and you got a set of stickers here and a professional version instruction booklet. Instruction booklet is basically a basic guide. It's not how to set up the helicopter. This particular version, you're expected to already know a bit about helicopters and not be a beginner, but there's a lot of information available on the web. We've got one empty box, and over here we've got the battery, 1800 milliamp hour, 3-cell LiPo. So I've removed the inner box out of the outer box, and basically you want to cut this area here to get the helicopter out of this box, and you want to cut these wire ties out of the bottom so that you can release the landing skids, which are secured in there for sure. So I've pulled everything out of the box that comes with the package for the Receiver Ready Edition. So we've got the main Healy, we've got the 1800 milliamp hour pack, we've got a bag of some wire ties, we've got this cool little blade holder, an assortment of different stickers to go onto the canopy. Looks like they've got 4 different ways to set up that canopy. And the pilot handbook. Once again, the pilot handbook's just some basic stuff that if you're purchasing this helicopter, you pretty much should already know. For the stickers, like with any kind of stickers that you're putting onto a plastic molded piece, you're going to want to wipe down the plastic with some Windex, let it dry, or some alcohol, something like that, to get any of the surface residue that's typically found during molding. Get that surface residue off of the canopy so that these stickers fit a little bit better. And to apply the stickers, you're going to need to actually cut them out with an X-Acto blade. They're not pre-die cut, so you're going to need to cut that out with an X-Acto blade and put it on there yourself. Comes with an area to place your battery onto with Velcro on both sides. So if you get another battery pack, you're going to want to make sure you get some hook and loop so that you can put that other battery pack on there with the Velcro. I tend to like to also put a rubber band around there, and they've got a nice little hook spot there to also put a rubber band. So I happen to have lots of number 54 or 64 rubber bands lying around. I've looped them around 3 times and put the rubber band around the battery pack, secured it around the tray. Sometimes you get canopies in these helicopters that they just don't quite fit right on there, so you can see the little blue grommets don't quite fit to the pin. So what I've done is I've already marked off where I'm going to cut the bottom of this canopy so I can slip it on just a little bit further, a little easier. So I've made my cut here at the bottom of the Healy canopy, so I could fit it on there a little deeper and get in all the way to the grommet there. Let me just put it on there. So I just put that on, and now it fits nice and snug with the battery in there. Another thing that you're going to want to do with the canopy is once you get your electronics in there, you're going to want to make sure that as you're rotating around the swash at any given pitch that you're not going to have any interference of the mechanics hitting the canopy. So if you have any interference, go ahead and trim that canopy back. Now they've secured, just pretty much for shipping, the servo wires and ESC wires onto the frame there. You can go ahead and you can cut those off, and so you can put your receiver wherever you want to put it. I'm going to happen to mount mine. I've got a Spectrum, one of the Spectrum AR 6200s You don't have to particularly use this receiver. You can use a 6100. I've got a 6100 and a belt CP. It does just fine. I just happen to have this that was going to go in another project, so I'm going to use this AR6200 receiver to go with my Spectrum DX7. One thing I've done here is you got to make sure that whenever you're wiring up the Healy, moving things around, that you don't have any wires that are going to touch any moving parts. This is an outrunner motor that they've got on here, and that is going to, this bottom part here, that's going to spin, and from time to time you need to get to the motor wires here and disconnect them. You're always going to want to disconnect those motor wires, keeping track of what colors go where on those wires. You're going to need to disconnect the motor when you're going to want to set up your pitch, because you don't want to increase your left stick and have your motor start spinning when you're trying to adjust your pitch. With a nitro Healy, obviously you don't start the engine, but with an electric, whenever you're moving that pitch around, you need to make sure that you're not adjusting the throttle. Some people on their radios will set up a throttle hold. I just don't trust that. I prefer, it's a lot safer to adjust your Healy with your motor disconnected. So I changed the wiring around. They had it with a wire tie going down here to the ESC. So I've hooked it up right here, which will also keep it away from that motor just a little bit better. And then I'm going to wire tie down that speed controller again, that electronic speed controller. It's also pretty helpful before you start getting into this to have a number of extra wire ties from your hardware store or Radio Shack, whatever, so that you've got enough on hand so that you feel that you can take something apart and put it back together again if needed. So on this side of the Healy, I've taken the power wires going into the speed controller and I've tied them up here. Then I've taken the speed controller signal and power line that was actually originally tied down. I tied that down again right here, and then later on I'll tie this down so that none of these wires get up into the gears or anything like that. So I finished putting the receiver onto the frame of the helicopter. I've got the main part of the receiver right here, and then I've got the additional antenna set up right here. As always with any of the 2.4 gigahertz systems, it is best, not always required, but it's best if you have the antennas perpendicular to each other. You can see the secondary receiver goes in this direction and the primary receiver goes in that direction. That will reduce the number of dead zones. And also 2.4 gigahertz does not necessarily like carbon fiber. Of course, there's a lot of carbon on this helicopter, so with the two receivers there being perpendicular and spaced off, I think we're okay. I've got a similar Healy where it's pretty much the same as this, and it's just doing fine. In choosing the location that I have for the receiver, I had to cut some of the wire ties that were already on here, so I've made sure that my wires for the servos are not getting close to any of the gears. Also on the inside there, I had to cut one and relocate a wire tie to make sure that the internal servo wire that's going through there for the right side back cyclic servo, that it's not going to touch the tail belt. I asked a Healy mentor of mine many years ago, I said, what's the best advice for a beginner? What can you tell me that's really good advice? And he said, the most important advice is take all the advice that you get with a grain of salt. Anything that I say here, you might even want to go and research and ask other people. Some people might disagree with me. Some people might agree with me. If you do your research, and the internet is great, lots of places to find online, you can usually find enough people agreeing with something, and then you go ahead and you take the advice. But take any advice that anybody gives you with a grain of salt. Just because one person says it doesn't mean that it's perfectly right. It might be right for you, it might be wrong for you. They might tell you something and maybe they've gotten away with it, but other people haven't. So do your research. Don't believe everything that you hear. And some people are right 90-something% of the time, but in other cases they can be wrong. So do your research, find out what other people are saying. It's a good thing to get online, like at rcdiscuss.com, and ask questions. Other websites and so forth, ask questions. If you don't feel you want to take a chance, ask more questions. But once again, take everything with a grain of salt.